All right, guys, thanks for coming here today. This is Augustus 5-6 with a speech called RFID Hacking, Live Free or RFID Hard by Fran Brown. Guys, if you could remember to badge out for evaluation, your speaker really appreciates the feedback. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Fran.
Turn this on? Is it on? Oh, how's it going, everybody? Good stuff. Welcome to RFID Hacking. My name's Fran Brown. I'm a managing partner at Bishop Fox. It's a security consulting company that helps organizations secure their networks and applications. You may know us by our previous name, Stack and Lou. We just rebranded. Pretty excited about that. Have some very fun and interesting stuff for you here today. I know that they said that the press wanted to see demos early in the first 10 minutes or something, so I'll kind of jump right into it in a second. But I just wanted to quickly go over what I'm going to cover today. Basically, about a year ago, I was doing a penetration test of a electric utility, and I needed to get access to their SCADA network, and it was only accessible from 2 different buildings. So this research is kind of born out of necessity. I needed to break into a building is kind of how I got into the whole RFID hacking. So I knew I needed to break into a building, and I started looking for resources out there. Unfortunately, there's no hacking exposed RFID. I think RFID Security, the book, is like 10 years old or something. And I started watching past Black Hat presentations and reading everything I could. And after hours and hours of that, I realized I was no closer to really achieving my objective of breaking into this building. A lot of the tools never really came to fruition that people have presented on in the past, were never released. A lot of the talks are more theoretical, and I need to break into a building. What are the tools that are available to me? What are the techniques I need to learn so that I could steal badge information and break into this building? And that's kind of what this talk is focused around. It's more a practical guide to RFID penetration testing, as well as I want to finish up strongly with some defenses. Most of the talks that I've seen kind of gloss over the defenses. It's kind of like tough luck. So I will make sure to cover defenses so you know what you could do about some of these issues. With that, I'll go through the primary existing RFID hacking tools that are out there that I think should be part of your toolkit and what you can use them for. I'm also going to go into how you go about stealing badges, replaying them, cloning them, then attacking the badge readers directly, bypassing the card. And then we'll get into our custom solution, which I'm about to pull up now, and then the defenses. So, he switched me back in. So I'm going to pull up a video right now. Thank you, optimal resolution. And what we're going to see here is, I'm going to quickly go through, I think that an RFID penetration test can be broken down into 3 simple steps, 3 basic steps. Step 1, we're going to try to steal someone's badge information off them without getting caught, without them suspecting. Whether it's at the local Starbucks or at the smoke area near a building we want to break into, we want to steal their badge information that's on their person. 2, we want to make a copy of their badge, an identical card, so that we can then 3, walk into the front door of the building and break into whatever building that we are trying to get access to. And with that, out of those 3 steps, there were plenty of tools available for all of them, but I noticed that the tool that was really lacking, the area that was really lacking the most was that first step. That first step of stealing the badge information without the other person knowing. And I watched years of presentations and formulated my theory of what I like to call the ass grabbing technique of RFID hacking, where you see these presentations, and I'll show that in a little bit, where the people have their Proxmark antenna and they're walking around grabbing people's asses and saying, look how easy it is to steal people's badge information. Now, I didn't want to get caught in the job that I was doing, so I didn't want to risk walking around, or trying to get a sexual harassment lawsuit brought against me just to try to get a badge. So this is the focus of our research, and The circuit boards that we just gave out are going to show that. So first, I'm going to quickly illustrate what I mean by the limitation on distance for this first step. Most popular, it's plugged into my laptop. This is the Proxmark. This is a RFID hacking tool you can buy, by far the most popular. It's plugged into my laptop here via USB, and then via another cable, there's the antenna. And we see that right now we are running the Proxmark, and we have it in listening mode. It's trying to read right now. So as we can see, it still does not see the card, even at this range. So I'll keep going down, getting closer to the antenna. Closer still, until there we go. 6339. We had to be within probably about an inch right here before it actually starts picking up the badge information. 6339. So this is about how close you have to get to somebody on their person to be able to effectively use this tool to steal their information, which is a little too close for comfort, if you ask me. So how many people here are familiar with the Proxmark, the tool that's up there? Pretty much the number one tool that's out there, the one tool you could buy, but it's a perfect illustration of how many people here have done a physical penetration test and targeting RFID? All right, not too many, a handful. And this is kind of one of the major points because it's not easy to do currently with the tools that are out there. But primarily you would see people with that antenna, with the CD on the end, running it down their sleeve with the CD looking antenna in their hand and trying to go up to people's back pocket and literally get within an inch. You saw how close you had to be. And that's a severe limitation. Once I came to that conclusion, I was like, this sucks, this isn't doable. This kind of penetration test isn't doable. I'm gonna get caught in 2 minutes, and in expressing the risk to our customer, I'm gonna tell them it's not really that risky because the chances of getting caught are high. So I thought to myself, wouldn't it be nice if I could have a long distance RFID hacking tool? So show a quick video of that. Wouldn't it be great? Yeah, and I'll show you this slide in full in the presentation here, and we'll get to the deck. Let's see, issue. So just to set this up again, how many people are familiar with the ProxClone website? And there's a few other websites that kind of talk about a similar idea to what we're doing here. Basically, in doing the RFID research, I noticed that people might put pictures of some custom solution that they did and be like, look what I did. This is awesome, and it could do this, and then not release any code or schematics or anything that could be useful to you in any way whatsoever to actually do it yourself unless you have an electrical engineering degree. So leaving you to do what I had to do here and come up with my own solution. One thing I want to note about this as we get into it is that with those PCBs that I gave out, and later today on the website, I'll be releasing the Arduino code, the fritzing diagrams, the extended Gerber. So you can you could send the files into someone that prints circuit boards for like $30 and have these printed out and be up and running with this kind of tool on your own with very, not super easy, but a lot easier than it's been in the past. So I'm just going to quickly show how our tool could be used to steal badge information from a little bit further away. If there was a tool that took that step one that allowed us to secretly steal this. Also, any Dr. Horrible fans in here? Couple knows it? Yeah. Information without having to go up and grab somebody's butt. So, as a crazy random happenstance, we do have such a tool. 6339 again. We look to my left here. This is what I'm calling the Tastic long-range RFID stealer from my company Bishop Fox. And we see here it's just a weaponized commercial reader. You guys can see it here. So we'll go ahead and throw that up there, and you can see it's a 26-bit card. Run it again. Facility code 113 and card number 6339. So it outputs it to the screen nice as well. I'm clearly a few feet away right now. And with this, I can steal the information without having to go and grab somebody's butt. So taking a little quicker look at what this tool is actually doing and how the circuit board comes into play. I'm going to turn this off. And we can see that it is about 1 foot by 1 foot and only 1 inch deep. Extremely light, portable, have a missile switch on the back here, which I was using to not accidentally turn it on, things of that. It's completely self-powered and portable. So what you would do is take this, put it in your messenger bag or backpack or briefcase, walk around with it, walk by somebody from up to 3 feet away and pick up their badge information, which is much better than, grabbing butts up here. It's not only does it write into the screen, but we actually see it's easy to take apart here. Just a single screw in the front, thumb screw that I can just twist out and take the lid off. And what we have here is, this is a long distance commercial badge reader, the kind that you would find in parking lots, so that you don't have to get out of your car. You can just roll down your window and reach your arm out of the car window and hold your badge out and get it picked up. So it's meant to be picked up from several feet away. All of this was in here to begin with. All I did was add the LCD screen, the batteries to self-power it, and you will recognize this circuit board here, which you have without all of the things already installed. But it has all the logic, the code behind it will be on our website for you to download as well. And this is just an Arduino controller that you can buy online on Amazon, Radio Shack, as well as just some resistors and a few things there you can pick up anywhere. We'll have detailed instructions on the website on how to recreate this, which is our main goal here. And finally, we have a micro SD card, which not only was it writing it, but it was actually writing it to the SD card in cards.txt, a text file. So pretty cool, right? So this tool, you can see, I got a few things in my bag already. Fits easily in a briefcase, a messenger bag, something like that. You could just turn it on. It beeps when you first turn it on, so do it in the parking lot or something, but after that, it's completely silent. And you could just walk by people, and as long as you get within a few feet of them, you can effectively pick up any badge information that they have on them. I like to have it, you have the shoulder strap if you're not sure where they have the card on them, if it's in a pocket or a pocket, you can kind of like walk by them and take it off as you're doing it and get the full body range from all pockets. And in doing this, it's a pretty simple solution in weaponizing an actual badge reader. It solves that problem of that first of 3 steps, stealing the information to begin with. We've been extremely successful in using this ever since on pen tests since I first made it. I've been able to train some of our staff in 10 minutes. Here's the on button, it's on the back. put it in there and open the text file. So it's all about making this, people out there have their own custom solutions. My goal here was to make this easy and repeatable so that security professionals in large organizations who don't know a thing about radio frequency or have electrical engineering degrees, but they do have to perform penetration tests and they want to illustrate the risks of some of these technologies to their management, to make it so that they don't have to spend a year studying this stuff to do it and get up and running quickly. The last video I have here is step 2. So now that we have this solution, let me save the battery actually. Yeah. So now that we have step 1, stealing the badge information, it writes to the screen, also puts it on this SD card. The second step is cloning the badge. Took this SD card, or micro SD card. I'm just going to pop it into my laptop. It should come up over here. So we should see the SD card came up that I pulled from our long-range RFID sealer. Check that out, and we see that there's a single file, cards.txt, just a simple text file. I click on that, and we see here, we scanned it a few times. It's a 26-bit card. Here is the hexadecimal notation for that badge information. We actually decode it for you. It's facility code 113 and badge number 6339, as we saw printed on the card. And we actually have the binary as well. So now we've successfully completed step one. We've taken this silently stealing badge information and made it a realistic possibility where we can, from 3 feet away, casually walk by you and steal the information. Now that we have that, we can use tools like the Proxmark to quickly create a cloned fake version of your badge so that we can go use it. And that is extremely easy. It's a single command. We already have the Proxmark set up here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and copy the hexadecimal version of this badge, 6339. Click copy. And we're going to come back to our Proxmark here. Now the Proxmark is in read mode right now, so by hitting this button I'll stop that. So now we have the badge information from our tool, just this hexadecimal value. And what we're going to do is take this programmable T557 card, which is a programmable card that doesn't read like anything right now. Of a 3-year-old. And we can turn this. This is just a sticky note. It's clearly not the 6339 badge. Just put a post-it on there. It's programmable, so I just lay that on top of the antenna here. And if we look right here, all I'm going to do is type in LF for low frequency, HID, because it's a HID card, clone, space, and then I'm just going to paste in that value we took from our cards.txt file. And click enter. And we see cloning tagged with that value that we stole, done. So right now, this card is functionally an exact duplicate of the card that we stole, 6339. So let's test it out. So we have our original again, badge number 6339. We have the original card, 6339. And it's a Prox card too. Go over it. 6339 still. Now we take our clone card, this card, which is clearly not that same card, just has my sticky note on it that we just programmed. We come up to it. Badge 6339, facility code 113, 26-bit card. So now we've successfully stolen and now made a fake copy of this person's badge. And that's as easy as it is. I mean, at this point, the real limiting factor that had stopped most people from doing RFID penetration tests in the past was that first step. Now it's simple. Use this tool, walk by a person near the building you want to break into, take the micro SD card out of it, copy and paste. It's a single command to write it to a programmable file, and now you have an exact copy of a card of an employee at whatever building you're trying to break into. Pretty simple. Pretty cool? Yeah. Thank you. Has anyone here built their own kind of solution like this on their own? No? Okay, good. And use the card then. So with that, I'll get into the actual presentation. So we saw the basic gist at this point. What 2 tools we would need to be able to pull this off and do a successful pen test. So in breaking it down, I don't want to do too much background information, just what you need to know. We're talking about low frequency here. most badge readers for physical security are still low frequency. I saw the article, I got slashed at it, and people were putting links to high frequency, long range antennas, and we're focusing on just the low frequency stuff when it comes to this. And why are we doing that? People say, I've seen Black Hat talks in 2007, 2006 about things like this. What's new? There's a few things that are new, but one thing that isn't new is that we saw before, we knew that if you're using low frequency RFID badge systems, that you're insecure. But it's very much like web application security 10 years ago. You could talk to managers and people who make decisions about purchasing, about SQL injection till you're blue in the face, and no serious budget or effort would be put into fixing things like that until penetration testers came out and could actually illustrate what could really happen. And that's how you start to begin change. But since we haven't had these tools to make this easy, in fact, it's most of and the Proxmart, if any of you guys are familiar with the Proxmart, it seems like some have, the tools that's the nicest packaged one that you can get, and it's still a nightmare to get set up and running, and it crashes all the time, and there's 80 different trees of the code behind it, everyone just committing to it. So it's kind of, it's not something that you can easily get into historically. I'm trying to change that now. And with that, we've seen this person has to be kicking themselves now at Hit Global for this blog post that they just recently posted, but basically saying that even to this day, in 2013, that almost 80% of physical security systems are still this old, insecure technology that we could easily fool, and that they fully recognize that there's no security around this whatsoever. And it's and they go on, that's the actual blog post, to list some of the reasons. Some of them it's ignorance on the part of the people who are making decisions. If you think about it, these are IT systems that aren't going through the traditional IT structure. They're being purchase decisions made by physical security guys, guys who are ex-cops, things like that, not from a hacker background typically. So this kind of being outside of that has affected the way that the purchasing goes. And for the most part, the RFID badge systems in buildings now are products that people bought in the early 90s. They have about a 20-year life cycle. So HID fully recognizes that these things aren't secure. And they said, yeah, I know, we sold it to you 20 years ago. You're more than welcome to upgrade to some of our more secure solutions. But the main motivation behind this talk and these tools was that, and releasing them to try to make it easier for security professionals, is that, and just looking at the timeline, and Chris Paton's talk in 2007 said, if you're using this, it's for your doors, you're insecure. It was out there, everybody knew about it, and to this day, 80% of people in 2013 are still using it. So we've made absolutely no progress whatsoever in doing anything about it. And my theory is because the tools have been lacking to pull off successful penetration tests and really convey these risks to the people who make the decisions to upgrade them. So, in getting into it, this is based from a white paper on how a hate card is read. And looking at the basic setup, it's simplistic, but it also gives us an idea of what our attack points are as well. So in this demonstration, in the main focus, we were attacking the card. That was our starting point. We're going after an employee in Starbucks, and we're trying to copy their card. So the card basically, when it gets near a reader, it just starts singing out anywhere between 26 and 37 ones and zeros. That's it. And the reader, which it looks just like one of these, it does no logic whatsoever. It just, one, powers the card that gets close enough to it, and then it listens for those 26 to 37 ones and zeros and passes it along to the controller in this Wiegand protocol. And technically, all I'm doing with this Arduino is tapping into that output as if I was a controller. So instead of running the signal with the badge number out the back of it and into a building to a controller, I'm just piping it right to the Arduino, acting like a controller myself. It's how we're getting that badge information. And then lastly, you have the controller is making all the access decisions, and then you have a PC that some physical security guard sits at, where you issue new badges, you monitor the cameras and things like that. So in looking at this is how it works at a high level, and it also gives us a high level picture of, if we're going to do a penetration test, these are the 4 things we'd want to target. First, we want to go after the cards. That's going to be the easiest. If all of a sudden everybody in a target company starts wearing RFID blocking wallets and things like that, and they step up protecting the card, then we'll be forced to move on down the line and attack the readers and attack the controllers directly, which is pretty cool as well. This is just illustrating, there's a lot of products that HID has. They make the bulk of these, they pretty much have a monopoly on badge systems. And they do make more secure products as well. And they're still just basically trying to get this information across that identifies you as a user. And in looking at this, in doing the research when I was doing this pen test, the simplest questions that I would have, it took me forever. It was the 125th Google hit to find the answer. Or I'd find it in a product manual or in some random spot. One of them was, what's written on the badge? What's written on the outside of these badges? And it's not always the same. And if I took a picture of somebody's badge, right, Google Images or something, is that enough information for me to make a fake version of their card, just based visually on what's on there? And I finally found this in a you'll notice most of them have like one number and then another longer number on the back. You guys probably can't see it, but you can see it up there. And one of them is your card ID number, which is only part of the information that's being broadcast. And then the other is just a sales order number. It has nothing to do with you as a user whatsoever. So if you want to buy more cards, when you call up a sales guy, you read that number off to him so he can print you more. It has nothing to do with authentication or getting into the door or anything like that. Took me forever to find that. So what this is again, 26 to 37 ones and zeros get sung out by these cards. And the way that's interpreted is what they call a format, which is your card ID number, which is printed on there, and a facility code and sometimes a site code. And the answer to that question, could you buy visually, if it's a simple 26-bit card, you could take that badge number and then just try all 100 or 255 facility codes, and you could theoretically brute force a badge just by seeing someone's picture and physically seeing it on the card. Now this was one of the most confusing things when I first started getting into this, was what information is on the badge. You'll see standard 26-bit, standard 26-bit, corporate 35-bit. You'll hear about 44-bit cards. When you're doing everything in the Proxmark, which is the main tool, it's 10 hexadecimal, which is only 40 bits. And it's all the same cards, and it got a little confusing there, at least for me. Is anybody else confused by what's on the card? No? You guys all got it? You guys are sharp. Okay. So the quick break, and I actually found the breakdown in a product manual for the reader. But the way it is when you put a card up to a reader, it sings out 26 to 37 ones and zeros. That's what it does. It's always 44 bits on the card itself. It's only singing out part of it. Always 44 bits, and the first hexadecimal is always 0, so it usually gets dropped, which is why you have only 10 hexadecimals for 40 bits, because they're just dropping the leading 0. And this is where I found it. I actually scanned it in from a product manual. You can see there, this is a standard 26-bit card. The right half is the 26-bit standard. That's the whole 44 bits on the card. You see the first 7 numbers on every card are always 6 zeros and a 1. Every single card. 6 zeros and a 1, which is why the first digit's always a 0 and gets dropped when represented in hex. And then you have 10 zeros, a parity bit, and then your 26 bits. So when people issue you a 35-bit card, or as you guys are upgrading, all it's doing is taking advantage of that 10 zeros and working its way over. It's just taking that buffer. But it's always 44 bits on the card itself. And you actually see with the leading 0 there in hexadecimal in the manual, it didn't drop it. It took me forever to find that. And we're focusing on security badge, physical security badge systems here, but as you can imagine, these type of attacks and tools and techniques are only going to get more interesting as we're starting to see credit cards with RFID finally starting to take place in the United States. I know they had it in Europe for a while. Anyone here a Disney fan? Yeah? Disney World, Disneyland? They're going everything RFID, from your fast pass to your getting in the door, to your hotel room to buying stuff at the My Magic Plus. So that'll be interesting research. In your passports, in animals, in hospitals. If I look tired in those videos, it's because I was. I have a newborn baby, my first at home. It's interesting to tell mom that I need to go dress up like Dr. Horrible and shoot a video about RFID hacking. But in doing that, there was tons of RFID all over that the nurses were using to keep tabs on the baby and logging into systems. So it's only going to keep showing up more and more. It's really starting to take off now. So into the nitty-gritty. This is your approach. This is the methodology I described. 3 simple steps. Steal the information off somebody who won't buy them, take the information and create a fake version, and then enter the building. And you don't want to be in the building any longer than you have to be, so plant a backdoor device like a phone plug, and I'll get in a little bit more on that in a second. But and then you can go home and maintain internal access, from the comfort of your own home. It's pretty simple, but it's the effective methodology. And this is what you saw in the video. These are from slides, from YouTube videos, from various presentations I've seen from the past 6 years, and they all consistently say, look how easy it is to steal people's badge information, and they always have pictures like this, which are not intended to be funny, I don't think, but I found them funny. As you can see, Jonathan West, who's the creator of the Proxmark, is he in here? Is Jonathan in here? Much props to you, but I mean, and looking at that picture, if he was doing that to you and walking around your corporate campus, grabbing people's asses, how long before you would notice and call the security guards on them? We even see, and essentially you see these people with these wires coming down their sleeve, an antenna about the size of a CD, typically, and they're walking up trying to get within a centimeter or two of people's badges. That's where we were. So this is the couple tools you'll want to have in your arsenal. So the Proxmark is probably the best one that you could buy out there. And even with this limitation of distance, it's a really cool tool. You saw that we used it to make the actual fake version of the badge. So it can read cards, it could simulate them, it can create fake versions. There's all kinds of cool things that you can do with the Proxmark. There's different pricing models, but the nice prepackaged version that you see there, the most expensive one is $399. And also with the Proxmark, another cool thing is being able to brute force badges. So there's this tool, Prox Brute, which is actually custom firmware for the Proxmark. Any guys used Prox Brute before? Anybody? Okay, so this is from a guy, McAfee, Brad Antonovich. Is Brad in here, any chance? Yeah. Keep an eye out for him. Brad's done some really cool research in the last year or so, and he's created this Prox Brute custom firmware that you could load onto the Proxmark. So what this is you notice the badge numbers, besides the facility code and things like that. Say you went to Starbucks and you picked up the badge of a normal employee, and it got you in the front door. But you also wanted to try to badge in and get access to a data center or some other more restricted area. What you could do is you already have most of the badge structure numbers that you need, and you only need to increment numbers one at a time in a certain spot. So maybe I just got a secretary's badge to get in the front door, but then I can brute force the next card number, the next card number, and the next one until I get a card number that will let me in the data center or some other secure area. So it's a pretty cool and useful tool as well. Another reason to get yourself a Proxmark so that you could load that on there. Any questions so far? No? All right.
How long does it take to get the brute force?
The question is, how long does it take to do the brute forcing? With that particular tool, that's actually doing it not over the wire, it's doing it over actually broadcasting. That takes a long time. But fortunately, there's usually not that many badges, and I think it's 1 second per card. Somebody said about 1 second per card. It's not, It's not going to be able to go through it lightning fast, but it is a little slow. So you do want to do it when no one's around if you're going to do something like that. We'll see in a little bit some tools that where you're actually jacking into the reader and doing over the wire, which are significantly faster to do that kind of brute forcing. So, besides the Proxmark, another really popular one are the RF idiot scripts from Adam Laurie, spoken at Black Hat plenty of times. He has recommended hardware that you could buy, but basically he's accumulated over the years a number of Python scripts that do all kinds of various RFID hacking related activities that he just keeps adding to this rfidiots.org tool. And the one convenient thing about this is the Proxmark and most of the tools that you would get are difficult to get set up and running, or they can be anyway. This comes preloaded on Backtrack, so all you have to do is plug in the USB of the antenna and fire up Backtrack, and you could be up and running very quickly. So there's some pretty cool stuff there to check out. Have any of you guys seen this before? I actually came across this. I haven't seen it in any security presentations. I came across when I was looking at product manuals. This is great. One of the other questions I had is, this is clearly a Prox card too. It says it, right? Real big on there, right? And I can see the badge information on the back. Now, I mentioned as an example that I like Disney, and Disney is moving everything over to RFID. Well, the RFID badges that they give out don't have any visual information on them that would give you any indication as to what type of technology it is, so that you would know what type of tool you would need to read it. So in situations where you don't know what kind of card it is, maybe you found one and you're trying to understand it, maybe you at your parking garage you have a RFID system to get in for your local campus or something. You want to see what technology they're using so you can get free parking or whatever you guys do on your own time. I don't know. This is great. Basically, it is 2 USB keys on a key ring, one high frequency and one low frequency. Just USB, you just plug it in, no software required. You just open up Notepad and hit scroll lock, and it starts running, as you can see up there. And it'll identify not only what the actual card information is, but it'll tell you exactly what type of technology it's using, which can be extremely important in getting moving fast with these things. So you try the low frequency. If that doesn't work, you try the high frequency, and it's a great way to identify what kind of card you're looking at if you don't know. Pretty cool. From RF Ideas. And finally, with all those, we have our solution, which we saw the video for already. But again, just all I'm doing here is taking this badge reader. I live in Phoenix now. I parked in parking before I came here, and then going in, you see this exact reader on the pole. I'm gonna have to mess around with it, see if I get free parking at the airport. Just kidding. But this literal exact reader, and it's so you don't have to get out of your car, and so you could just put your arm out the window and from a couple feet away, badge into a system, and that's what we're looking at here. And again, all I'm doing is tapping into the same output that you would run to the controller when it's telling a badge number that it saw, and I'm just recording it. Extremely easy, extremely effective solution for doing this type of thing. And I write everything new. The code I'll be releasing, it's not on the website now, it will be by the end of the day. Not that you need it anyway, but I put in decoding 26-bit badges, 33-bit, 34-bit, 35-bit, into what they are. Technically, all you need is that hexadecimal version to make a clone copy, but just for making it nice. And that's all in the text file. Missile switch on the back, just because it's cool and practical. Only a foot by a foot and an inch deep, fits in most things you would want. Now, again, the thing that I gave out to you guys today, and that I'll be making available for the people who weren't fortunate enough to get up to the front of the room quick enough, is I designed this solution in fritzing. How many people here are familiar with fritzing? Yeah. It's just it's a free, nice product for designing these kind of custom solutions. It's what you see on the right there. And in this, it has I designed it in that, and it has, you can export it to a file that you could send away to a company that prints circuit boards, and they will send you that circuit board there. For this many that I got, if you get them in bulk, it's like $2 a card. If you get just one, it's about $30. And you can send it to anybody to print out. So you can now take this, take your one that I gave you, or go online and download this, then go and buy an Arduino from Radio Shack or Amazon. I'm going to release a parts list. The micro SD card writers from SparkFun. You can order all these things and have them in a day. They're relatively cheap. All of the pieces are cheap. I will note that I bought this reader on eBay. So I went on eBay and bought this long distance reader. That's the most expensive part. This is the best one that they have. So I think on eBay it's about like $470, which isn't that, I mean, it's not that bad considering. You can take this, the great thing about this PCB is it's tapping in this Wiegand protocol. You could take this and put it in any reader. So you can get the model one lower than that for maybe $100, and maybe it'll only get a foot instead of up to 3 feet. And you could just plug it in just the same and it'll work just fine. But all the rest of the parts are cheap. And the simple structure is it's basically 2 inputs and 2 outputs. It's taking in the batteries and the output from the actual reader and outputting it to the screen and to the SD card. Is what it boils down to. Any questions about this so far? Yeah, so I'm going to get into this tool is, I'm going to get into attacking readers in a minute, but it can have some other, I'll get into that when we get into readers here in a second. Again, this is just this Wiegand protocol. Basically, the card sings out 26 to 37 ones and zeros. The reader outputs data 1 and data 0. If it was a 0, it sends a pulse on 0. If it was a 1, it sends it on that. It's just a simple output that we're tapping into. In doing these badge systems, there are 2 main brands of this low frequency proximity card technology. There's the normal, technically HID bought the other company, so they're technically all HID. But you have HID procs and Indala procs are the 2 kinds you normally see. And this is the HID procs long distance reader. You can take this card and also plug it into the Indala long distance reader. So if you get this card, the PCB and the 2 long distance readers, you're covered for every badge that there is pretty much for physical security. If you put this in your bag and go by the local Starbucks of the building you want to break into, and you notice that you're not picking up any badges, it's probably Indala instead of HID. So just go back home and grab the other one and sub them out. Like the lies there. So one thing about Indala proven secure. Indala is supposed to be better off, and until recently it actually wasn't that easy to do. I worked with some people to come up with the Indala clone feature. But basically Indala was a competitor company of HID. They also make this technology. They got bought and they're the same company now. But all they're doing, instead of singing out the ones and zeros, they're doing a little bit of obfuscation, which is repeatable. And we'll see that if you actually have the Indala reader, which we're doing, it does all the decoding for you anyway. So if you're actually using an Indala reader, you can get around all that anyway. And we see here, this is the Proxmark again. When I was doing this pen test, it was an Indala system, and I went on the Proxmark, and there was a HID clone, but there was no Indala clone. So I stole the badge information, and then I couldn't do anything with it. I was like, it's not doing me any good. I can't break into the building still. So I worked with some people on the Proxmark bulletin board, and they put out this Indala clone. So now you can take the information, and just like we saw in the video, write it and create a fake version. That's a fake version of an Indala card. So some people tell you, we have Indala, and that's more secure. Most people who've bought Indala are under the impression that it is more secure, and it is not. It's just as easy to break now. One last piece with it, with these Arduinos, just for simplicity's sake, I'm just writing everything to a text file on a micro SD card. There's tons of other things that I'm going to play around with that you could easily add on to an Arduino-based system like this. So maybe over Bluetooth, it could send me every badge that it reads, and I could read it on my phone as I'm walking by people in Starbucks, or even hook it up with cellular service to leave it near a building or something like that and have it text message me any cards that it sees as people walk by. All this stuff would be extremely easy to do given this setup to add on these existing modules. So there's all kinds of cool things that you could do and run with this. I don't want to spend much time on this forward channel stuff, but I've seen, drop a no eaves, Mr. Gandalf. Basically, the limitation in distance is due to powering the card, and I've seen some PhD papers and things like that talking about where if you do it passively, if you let the real reader in the front door of wherever people are going power that card, and you just wait for the signal afterward and listen to the saying of the 26 to 37 ones and zeros, you can get much further distance. And I saw that in Chris Page's talk, he even mentioned it, having a passive mode, and he claimed that he'd gotten up to 10 feet. This tool never got released, obviously. And I don't know, if anyone's aware, I'm not aware of any tool out there that actually does this type of attack. But it is something to consider if distance is your thing and this isn't getting it close enough that people might be doing. Copying the card. What we saw in that video, so on step 2, those were all the tools that we used to steal the badge information as well as do some other cool things. Actually making the copy of the card, it was not a blank card. You can get blank cards, but what that was a T55X7 card. So these things you could program, and they simulate not only the data, but also the behavior. So if I had an $1 card, it wouldn't work on this reader. And if I had a HID card in front of an $1 reader, it wouldn't work. Those two technologies don't work. But these programmable cards, you could program them to act like an $1 card, or program them to act like a HID card. So they can simulate the behavior and the data of any type of card. So they're kind of your universal key that you want to have for creating fake versions of cards. And you can buy them online. One note is my slides, the notes sections are usually like a white paper. Every link to everything you would want to know about that, it will be in the notes section of the slides. And there's a number of places where you could buy these that I have links for there for a couple dollars each. And again, there's two main types of technology we want to clone, HID procs and $1 procs. And there's two single commands that once you have the stolen information, you can clone that to a fake badge and be breaking into buildings. So let's say that everybody started getting RFID blocking wallets and purses and things like that, and we couldn't sniff it anymore, but we still wanted to break in. There's a number of cool things out there for attacking the readers and the controllers directly. There's a bunch of tools out there that people have released where you just go up to the front door when no one's around, maybe late in the night, pop the lid off of the reader, and do things with it, tamper things with it, dump information off of it, such as stored keys for the more secure badge systems, and brute forcing, as someone mentioned. So one of the things that we saw, there's a tool called the Gecko that came out a few years ago, but this is doing a man-in-the-middle attack. And technically, I didn't design this circuit board for this purpose, but I thought about it afterwards. Essentially, what I'm doing is I'm taking this and putting it in a reader, and it's tapping into the output for the purposes of I bought my own reader. You could just as easily take this and with a couple modifications, go to the front door of the building you want to break into, maybe at 4 in the morning, pop the lid off, and insert this into the reader and have it sit there all day. As people badge into the front door, it's tapping in and just recording all of the badges that are coming through, maybe using the cell phone service, text messaging you badge stuff so you don't have to keep going back and checking it. But you can actually use this in the same fashion as this Gecko tool as a man-in-the-middle tool to sit there and collect badge information inside the actual real reader of the facility that you're targeting. Also, besides doing things like that, there's a whole presentation on this, so I won't go into it, but that Brad Antonio, which I'd probably just butcher his last name, so I apologize in advance, but Brad from McAfee, the same guy who created that Prox Brute software, the custom firmware that I talked about earlier, he also has a presentation that came out last year, and he has a project with tons of scripts for doing all sorts of interesting things, with Arduinos as well, where you are going up to a reader and attacking it directly. So if you wanted to brute force, the reader reads the information and then sends it in that format to the controller. Well, if you plugged in directly, you could just start sending badge numbers yourself directly to the controller to brute force badge numbers a lot faster than if you did it over the air. And he has a number of scripts for doing those exact types of things and attacking readers and controllers directly. And there's all sorts of interesting things you could do with that. And he gets 5 IDs a second instead of 1, as you can see there. So I would recommend checking out those links and seeing his presentation on the attacking the readers. So we covered step 1 and step 2. You stole the information and you created a fake badge, and now you went into a building. Now, besides walking around and acting like you worked there, you probably want to avoid being physically present as much as you can. You want to minimize that amount of time that you're there. So the most effective thing you could do is plant some kind of back door that will maintain a presence in their internal network that you're going for, so that you don't have to stay there. And how many people here are familiar with the PWN plug? Most people. It's really starting to catch on in the last year or two. And this is just something that you can hide in a conference room or an empty cube, plug in the network, and it'll phone home to you, and it'll be like your own personal VPN into the internal network of whatever company that you broke into. They had the original one, and now they're coming out with some really cool additions with the power pwn there. I mean, it looks pretty legitimate, but they are pretty hefty price tags of $1,000 and $1,500 for these things. So with that, I also recommend, instead, you're seeing a lot of people are starting to use Raspberry Pis and releasing images for this to basically do the same exact thing, but for $35 instead of $1,500. And we actually see it, many people here are familiar with the Raspberry Pi? I'm assuming probably a lot, good amount. This is in a case, it's just this small, just something that you can hide somewhere. It's a fully functional PC and a single board. And you just put the operating system on the SD card here. People are releasing images, including the people that make the PWN plug. From Pony Express, they had the Raspberry Pwn. There's also the Rogue Pi or the PWN Pi. So there's a lot of research out there. So you could buy this for $35 and get yourself a nice little backdoor device pretty quickly for cheap and fast. I like that one probably the best. Somebody took an old laptop charger that they had sitting around, and they just hollowed it out and put they noticed the Raspberry Pi fit in there exactly, and turned it into a just an extra power thing laying around that's actually a backdoor. Little extra touches go a long way. You can walk in the door. You have the appearance of legitimacy. You got in the door. Some of the things you could do at this point is get, the number one thing I'd recommend is get fake polo shirts made. If you're wearing a polo shirt of the company that you're breaking into, seems to just has people's eyes glazed over and you look like you belong there. For this particular assessment that I was doing for this electric utility, I had someone from our company call up and try to get these polo shirts made, and we were going to just use the logo from their website. And we actually have a template from the last event you guys threw for your polo shirts. Do you want to just use those? And we're like, yeah, sure. So they gave us actual legitimate polo shirts that company uses, made it even easier. Also, you saw these badges are just plain, the ones we're writing to. On eBay, you can get pretty decent badge label printers and things like that, so that if you have a picture of someone's badge, you would just take it in Photoshop and actually laminate it on the card to give yourself that extra sense of legitimacy. So someone's eye on your card, will go over easy. And then lockpick guns for any thing you might find, just little badge accessories, things like that. Some people in our company like the HD pen cam for super spy walking around and recording the video as they've broken into a place. They make for terrible videos. They're usually bouncing around and they're almost unwatchable because it's, if you ever had a pen in your thing. So some people like those sort of things. And in all honesty, Keep it simple. I just use my iPhone. No one looks out of place walking around like this. And if you're just recording video, no one's going to question, like, what is that guy up to? I'm on my iPhone. What do you think I'm up to? And the iPhone 5 has one of the best cameras that I've ever seen. So, keep it simple. If you want to go the James Bond route, you can get the spy pen. Finally, defenses. The one thing that most talks typically gloss over, avoid being probed. Get yourself one of those fancy hats. So most of these products that are out there, 80% of the products that are out there were bought 20 years ago, and they're completely insecure, and it's recognized. Now, maybe you are a huge conglomerate that has 100,000 employees, and that's 100,000 badges that you would need to do, and tons of doors in multiple buildings in multiple countries. And it's not really realistic to migrate to a more secure solution, at least not in any reasonable time frame. Now, if you're a smaller company, I recommend looking at the contactless smart cards, the high frequency stuff, the newer products that are out there that can do challenge response, authentication with the reader, and use encryption and things like that. It's not just singing out 26 ones and zeros. If you're a small company, you might be able to do that, something you want to get on your radar. But if you're not, or if, what you can do in the meantime, there are plenty of things. So you can use badge readers that have PIN codes or biometric things as well, so that even if I walk by you in Starbucks and I picked up your badge number, I still don't have all the information I need to be able to break into the building. On the software side, you could do anomaly detection. There's plenty of software out there now for those badge systems. So if I show up at 8 in the morning for work every day in building A, and all of a sudden at 4 in the morning I'm badging in at some building I've never been into, or something like that, you can have it set off alarms and notify someone at a security desk to take a look at that. Also, the RFID protective sleeves. I'll get into that in a second, but these sleeves that you could put your badges in, or wallets or things like that, those are great, and that's what I would recommend. About half of them don't work. Half of them are just, they're getting over on you. They just bought old wallets and put a label on it saying RFID blocking and sold them to people. So it's kind of hit and miss. So what I would recommend is, before you buy 100,000 of them for your employees for a large organization, that you get samples and you actually test it out with these tools to make sure that it's not just blowing smoke, that they actually do work. And what else? Also, when you're outside, getting those physical pictures to be able to print on badges. Tell your employees not to be wearing their badges out on them when they're outside of the company facilities in prominent view. Take a picture with your iPhone, and that's how I printed out labels of what the badge looks like. As people secure the cards, protecting the readers themselves, using these security screws that you could buy, things like that, so that I can't just use a normal screwdriver and pop the lid off your reader on the door in a second or two. It may at least make it a little more difficult by getting security screws and things like that. And also, depending on what readers you have, some of the readers have tamper detect mechanisms in them. So that if somebody's messing around with the wires in there, or trying to plant a man in the middle device in there, or something like that, that it will send a tamper detect message to the person, security guard, letting them know that something's going on. And then, having everything monitored with security cameras, so that, if all of a sudden at 4 in the morning you get an alert saying someone's tampering with the reader, you can quickly pull it up and have forensic evidence and see if somebody was trying to take one of these PCBs I just gave out to you and stuck it in your reader somewhere. One of our guys is from Scotland. Sounds just like Sean Connery, very, very charming guy. And he got his green card, and you could see there that it clearly says, keep your green cards now have, everything's going RFID. Green cards have RFID in them now. And, this US government approved, stamped and sealed approved badge, keep it in this at all times to prevent communication with this badge over RFID. And we tested it, and it doesn't work at all. It's literally just a piece of paper. I don't know how much money these guys made selling this to the federal government for every green card. But it doesn't work at all. And it's important that we had a bunch sent to us to test out, and it seemed like 50-50 random. They all look the same for the most part. Some of them, I put it in the badge, hold it in front of my reader, the number comes up. Some of them, it actually blocks it. So before you buy them in bulk, test the product out using tools like this. Don't assume just because we sold them to the federal government. Don't assume that they work. And that is it. Any questions? Thank you very much, everybody, for coming out. Hopefully, if you go to the Bishop Fox website, by the end of today, it'll be up there. Arduino code, the diagrams, everything you would need to get up and running to do this yourself.